Dry hole. Oh,
not a bad run.
That was a good one.
Yeah, I think so too. Well, should we
You done? Ooh. Why don't you guys grab your stuff? Let's go outside. So, how do you guys think that went this time?
I know it sucked. We went too fast.
we went too slow?
I should have pied left.
I should have pied right.
I treated the corner fed like a center fed.
We treated the center fed like a corner fed, and I didn't dissect the bilateral long wall.
I should have button hooked linearly.
When I said on me, I really wish he was more on me.
My threshold negotiation was garbage.
When I was on him and he was on me,
And we were on each other,
we should have been on each other, opposed.
supporting each other individually on each other, across from each other.
Yeah, on me.
Probably should have went for an inner thigh squeeze and not a shoulder squeeze.
My footwork doesn't hold a candle to my handwork.
What?
Are we still talking about CQB?
No, we are not talking about CQB anymore. It's not what we're doing, okay? I'm not gonna say it was good to either of you. However, it may not have been as bad as last time. We can do without all the, whatever those words were that you guys were talking about, and the on yous and on me's, and but other than that, there's progress, right? Fair enough. So what we can do is we can talk about a couple of those things you guys did, especially with the white lights, kind of put that in context, a little bit of perspective. And yeah, we don't need linears and big words and pies and a lot of that stuff. We can kind of, like tighten it up a little bit.
So, what you're saying is that was Gucci. Hey guys, we're back here again today with none other than Drew Estell from Baer Solutions. If you didn't catch the last video, you probably should. CQB, every civilian should know. But today we're talking about low light and when to use your white light and when not to use your white light. Because as you know, it's only light during half the day. A lot of the bad things that happen in the dark. And any building you ever go into could have its power shut off just like that. So, Drew, what are we going to be going over today?
Yeah, man. One, it's good to be back, especially after the last video. That was a good time. Even better time was reading the comments. So some people didn't realize that was a joke. But yeah, so we're going to be covering a little bit of white light today. And just so you guys know, I'm a bit of a, I'm going to call it minimalist or reductionist on some of this stuff, right? You can go into it really deep, like science on the lights and photons and all this. But basically, I just kind of want to break down with you guys what, why, when, and then go over the how, right? Like, what are we using with the light, right? And when do we use it? And then how do we do it? And so on and so forth. But we really got to understand the why. So put some of that to it and see what you guys think. And for one thing, we all know, like, do a lot of jokes, but you guys are really knowledgeable in this stuff. Been doing it for quite a while, and I think it's some things that people don't realize. So I think it's going to be a good time. Should be interesting.
Awesome.
Tear us apart.
Yeah. So first thing, let's kind of put it in context, right? So coming in, what do you guys think is the most common reason you're going to be using a white light? Or some people will say a scenario or background, but let's just put it in context for a second.
Just to see things.
Yeah, right. Like you just like to see things, but especially from what we do, it's probably your home, right? And I'm big on you need to know your home. You need to be able to do all that. But this is, what we protect. Okay. So it can be a lot of things, but in the context of the home, that's probably the most realistic thing that we really got to think about. But, you're going to use a light for lots of other stuff. So what do we use the light for? We use it to see things. Like that's pretty much it, man. So you need to see stuff. And I'll go ahead and give you the bottom line up front. Turn it on when you need it, turn it off when you don't, right? So some people get really into stuff, like the photons and the beams, and I'm sure you guys can talk a lot about that, right?
Yeah. So like the lumens is the power of the light. The candela is how far, or like the cone and how far it can push through things. And then photons, or if you guys hear like photonic barriers, which a lot of people talk about, a photonic barrier is basically a light source. And the more lumens and the more candela you have in your light, whether it's handheld, rifle mounted, or pistol mounted, the more you're able to push that light past that light source, which is the photonic barrier. So whatever light you have on your gun, like we typically want it to be powerful enough to handle the lights that could potentially be in our environment.
And then people also get wrapped around the axle about, well, the inside of your home is typically bright and well lit. There's windows, there's curtains and shades. And man, if I have a really high candela, high throw light, like a Surefire, the new turbos, it's going to be too much light for inside. You're going to blind yourself and not be able to see depending on what's going on. So some people will advocate that there's too much light or not enough light.
There we go.
Out of both sides of their mouth.
But one thing I've noticed is that we all in this community tend to talk way more about the gear and the capabilities than we do actually practicing with our white light, which is the biggest problem.
Exactly. And kind of going back to what you were saying, there's a lot of opinions on lights, right? So some people are like, well, I want it as bright as I can get it. I want 33,800, candelers or whatever. And other people are like, no, man, 600 is the limit. It's like, okay, man. Well, it kind of comes down to, just remember, that old saying, like, opinions are like apples, right? They're all delicious, right? You know what I'm saying? So, gotcha. All right, so with that said, like, you got to understand that no matter what's going on, there's always going to be someone, there's always a pro and a con to everything. So to me, it's turn on when you need it, turn off when you don't, right? So what are some of the pros of using a light other than see stuff? You know what I mean?
You're creating I don't want to say a visual barrier because that kind of gets back to the photonic conversation, but that's really what it is you're also telegraphing to someone else where your eyes are or where they're generally directed. And
There's
then
a con, right? Yeah.
Sure, but in a positive way, you can shine a light down a hallway and maybe stop someone from having the idea of poking their head out. You're controlling an environment.
There you go. It's a suppression tool, right?
Blinding them.
Yes. It's a suppression tool, whether visually or physically, like if you sign that down there, you're like, boom, they're like, oh, someone's looking here. And if they have a gun, I don't want to get in the light. You know what I mean? So there's that. You can use it to hold stuff. You can do all that with it. Another thing people don't think about is the light's also a communication tool. So for us and how we used it, like if I hit something, right, or if I have friendly, like people on the other side, or whatever, I might flash the bottom of a doorway. Or I might just be like, hey, man. They're like, oh yeah, go look over there. Like pretty simple. I'd flash something with the light. My buddies that I used to work with would be like, we need to focus our attention on this now. So it's more than just seeing stuff, right? Now, what are some of the cons to using a light? And there's one big one in particular.
Giving away your position.
Giving away your position, that's it, right? Anything else?
You may start to negate your own natural night vision, but that starts to get really into the weeds.
Yeah, you can kind of get some vision stuff there. Like a lot of people are like, it'll blind you. I'm like, well, don't look at the light. Like
we've all dry fired into a mirror before.
Yeah. So that's pretty much it. We know we can use it for more than just seeing. We can also use it to suppress, a position or something, or hold that position down if I really feel a certain way. And hallways are good examples of that. Like if I got a long hallway and I'm searching here and something at the end and maybe I see light change, right? Maybe I'll hold that light on there because I'm like, you ain't going nowhere, stay right there. But I want to hold that and see. So we kind of know what we're using it for. And it's pretty simple, right? I'm sure there's a lot of people out there, you got more reasons, absolutely. I'm sure everybody would like to hear them, put them down in the comments section too. So that kind of rolls us into our next thing, which is why do we use lights?
Hey, as we're talking about everything low light and CQB, you're gonna need a light on your gun. And these Surefire turbos have been pretty incredible since they came out. If you guys are looking to pick up some more white light or even holster accessories for your pistola, go ahead and check out Sportsman's Guide. They're a sponsor of this episode. If you use the discount code DIRTYCIV, all one word, all caps, it'll save you $20 off of any purchase over $100. Now, that doesn't include ammo, but if you want to join the buyer's guide, that will save you 10% off on additional accessories, products that you buy, as well as 5% off of ammo and some savings on shipping as well. So all that being said, go ahead and check out Sportsman's Guide. They are sponsoring this episode. Very thankful to them. Now, let's get back to training.
Here in the hallway, we understand what we're doing with the light, but more specifically, other than, hey, this is my home and everything else, are there anything in particular that we're doing with the light and that's specific why, right? That gives us a real purpose to doing it? Anything you guys can think of?
You want to make sure if you are in your own home that if someone's making a noise, kind of going back to the first video that we did on CQB, is it your wife or your kiddo getting a glass of water in the middle of the night? Or is it someone who's not supposed to be there? And you need to confirm who is this and what are they doing?
There you go, right? So search, clear, and identify, right? So we look at that, search, clear, identify. So what do those mean? Well, That's exactly what it sounds like, right? But search, I'm going through it, I'm searching to see what's going on. Once I've done that, then I can say, hey, this is clear, and I no longer have to worry about it for the most part, right? And you can always be like, well, if someone comes around back and gets behind you, like, well, yeah, that's why you do something called re-clears as you go back. So I want to search things, and I'm actively using the light. Once I'm done with that, I call this good and clear, and now I can put my focus and my attention on something else. It also comes down to identification. And you mentioned it like we talked about in the last video. You do not want to make a bad decision. So if you can't see it, you can't shoot it, right? So we have to see things and properly identify those things. So if it's at night, do you think you guys can tell, and you guys too, do you think you can tell the difference in someone holding an iPhone down here or if that's a gun? Because they both kind of shiny a little bit.
Definitely not under stress.
Well, yeah, and then certain lighting conditions, you guys might not notice that. So we got to use this light. We have to be 100% accountable for every bullet that goes into the gun, 100% accountable for every bullet that comes out of the gun, right? So we always want to make sure we do that. When we do that, just kind of quick tip, the target ID, like acronym, we say snapshot, hands, threat, action, okay? I can't do any of that if I can't see everything I need to see. So that identification is pretty important. So that's kind of why we're using the light. So think about it like this. I'm just going to kind of use this right here, right? So if I have this light out, and we'll talk here in a second about handheld versus weapon mounted, but if I have this light out, right, and I come around and I get to this point where I see somebody, right? See that kind of edge right off there? It kind of makes that, hard line on the wall. So if I can see half of somebody like Nick holding the camera, because he's really good at it, and you look real good doing it too, bud. So if I see Nick there and I only see half of him, and say I can see his right shoulder, right? My left, his right. Do I have proper identification of that person?
No.
No, because you don't see everything. So what happens sometimes is people see something, they go, they get all jumpy, and they're like, whoa, and they snap out, all ready to go, and then like, oh, there's nothing in their hands, right? Or they see just half of it, boom, and they just immediately go into it. It's like, hey man, don't forget, you have to use the light all the way through to see the whole person also. So to me, that's pretty important, right? If your kid's coming home at night, is in the kitchen, you're like, dude, it's finally happening. It's happening. Someone broke into my house. Here I go. And there was actually a story of somebody shooting their kid that came home late at night. I don't know what state it was in. I can't remember, but I just heard it like a week ago. That's probably the biggest fear, right? So just remember when you're using light, use it all the way until you are done so you can make a good decision, right? And so what we tell my daughter is full ass, not half ass, right? So do the whole thing. All right, so that's what we're using it for. Search, clear, and identify. And we do that process over and over and over until we're done with what we need to do. The light enables us to do that when it's not bright out. Make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
Cool, guys. So for y'all, is there anything in particular you guys see as an advantage or a disadvantage to handheld versus a weapons mounted light?
Well, yeah, I mean, if it's handheld, you're kind of clear to point it at anything at any time. Yeah. If it's weapon mounted, you've got a gun pointed at whatever you're trying to illuminate. So you don't just want to be pointing guns at potential family members in your own home. So there's a time and place for both, in my opinion.
Yeah, you don't want to be on the side of the road trying to fix something under the hood of your car, pointing your gun around, and then cops get called on you. So there's pros and cons to the both. Hopkins and I have both advocated for a long time that you should carry both, and if you have to only have one, you should have a handheld. Yeah. That's our personal opinion, but what's your take on that?
I'd kind of agree with that. I think the handheld's more versatile. You can use it in a lot more situations. You can, just like you said, I don't want to pull my gun out. You know what I mean? If I don't have to. The gun shouldn't come out till you're sure you need to use it, right? Or pretty sure, because there's a very high probability of it. So just remember, the gun can be a liability. I want as little of those as possible. So yeah, handheld lights are great, right? Now, downside to handheld lights is you got a light in one hand, and if you do have your weapon out within the legal limits of the law or whatever, that mumbo jumbo, you got this sucker out, right? Like you got your gun, well, now you're shooting one-handed, right? So there's all these different techniques. There's like the theorem, what's it called? Theorem. That sounds way better than what I was trying to do. But they flip it around and they hold their gun, and that works really good. And some people use different techniques. They put it through their hands like this and put their hand up, or the over under, you get the FBI thing and everything else. Do you guys think there's an advantage or disadvantage? Some people say, well, if I hold my light up here, they'll shoot the light up here, versus if it's on my gun down here, I don't think that's a real thing, mainly because most people that are bad actors, right, that are doing this, probably suck at shooting. You know, they're not very good. And I just went like, where'd most people miss?
Low left.
Where's my head? Oh, you know, like, oh man, that kind of changes shit. So like, who's gonna look around and go, oh, I bet there's someone there. You know, like, I think that's probably one of those things that sounded really good. And maybe we've said, hey, maybe that's not the most important thing we need to worry about. It could be, but so for me, I don't get too wrapped up in how we hold it or where we hold it. I know some guys who just put it right here and hold the gun out because they like the way it lights up their sights on the back, or they hold it underneath like this and shot, or like all kinds of stuff. Doesn't matter, man. Just get comfortable holding the light so that if you need to use the firearm, you can.
Well, I think the comfort part of it is key. Like, regardless of how you do it, if you don't train enough doing this or this or this or this or this, whatever it is, like if you're not working that into a regular training or even dry fire routine, you're just setting yourself up for a disadvantage in what could potentially be the most important moment of your life. Like, why not shoot like you normally would if you actually have to use it?
There you go. Right. And what does that go back to? Well, the easiest way to do it is to have a weapon mounted light. You know what I mean? But the handheld's great. I'll tell you one guy that's really good at like light stuff is, you guys know Brian Belize?
Yeah.
Slide Tack?
Yeah.
Great dude, man. We're going to teach a class later this year, shameless plug. But we're going to teach a class later this year in Pennsylvania, but he's really good on that stuff. Super knowledgeable. Great guy to look at, you know, also for this, if you guys want to take it further. So when do we use the light? We said it earlier, turn it on when you need it, turn it off when you don't, okay? There's a little bit more to it than that, but I would say that's probably the simplest way to approach it, right? And I think that's, for a lot of people, if you really think about it, a lot of it's kind of common sense. But let's go ahead and break down the two ways we can do it. So we know we have constant on, and then what's the other type?
Momentary.
Momentary or strobing, or some people just like on off, you know, like different verbiage, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to call it. So momentary, or strobe, or on off, or whatever, but some lights actually have a strobe, like a thing, so call it momentary. But, so what we're talking about is, we're gonna hold that light on the whole time, versus am I gonna see something, turn it off, see the next thing, turn it off, see the next thing, turn it off. So, with that said, when do you guys think we would use, let's go with constant on first.
To light an area to deter someone from coming into it.
Yeah, there we go. So kind of the suppression thing, like we talked about. Anything else?
If you are inside of a structure that is completely dark, it's dark outside, and you can't see where you're going, you don't have night vision, and as soon as you turn it off, you're gonna start tripping over stuff. It may be a little bit too much to try to go on, off, on, off, on, off. Just leave it on.
Maybe.
Trying to fill a room.
Yeah, so yes, and some of that comes down to how comfortable are you with it. Like you hand somebody a light for the first time, what do? They look everywhere like, I want to trip over this. You're like, okay, then after a little while, they'll flash it and be like, I have a mental snapshot of what it is. I know generally where to move and I'm good. To me, it's, can they see me? So if it's dark out and everything's dark and they can't really see me, cool, I'm gonna use that strobe. But if it's dark, you know, in certain places and not in others, and if I turn that light off and they can still see me, ugh, you know what I mean? So it kind of depends on how we use it. I might keep it on constant more often. And that kind of comes down to being backlit. That's kind of the term that we use. So backlit means, say like, if I have this doorway right here, right? Say this whole room inside is dark and I step into that sucker, they can see me because it's light outside, right? And there's a perfect silhouette of me as I'm, you know, tactically prying off this door or doing whatever. So, all right, fair enough. So if I come around and I'm just strobing on and off, does that do me any good? Is the weapon light or the light in general actually helping me out?
No, that makes sense because you're not actually hiding in the dark when it goes off.
There you go.
Having it on constant wouldn't hurt you.
There you go. That's exactly, it's a good way to put it. So if I had it on constant, as I come around, I might be able to use that light, you know, that deer in the headlights kind of thing. Like maybe that'll come into play and maybe that'll help me out a little bit, right? At the same time, remember that the light telegraphs your movement. So, and you know, that's a whole nother video on how to pie doors and all that other stuff. But there's a lot of kind of argument, okay, to take that door nice and easy and slow, step by step, or do I do a quick dynamic pie and get around there? Well, yes and no. There's a time and place for everything. So you're gonna have to kind of weigh that. But I would say if you're backlit and I'm like doing something like that, I'm probably gonna have it constant on. You know what I mean? For the most part. If I'm not, I'm gonna try and strobe as much as I can because that gives me the advantage. They see a light and they don't see shit. And the next thing you know, like, haha, I'm over here, you know, or something like that. So on and off if I can. So the other part would be in a room, if I'm in my house, what would be some of the things that when I said, you know, see what you need to see and then turn it off? What would be some of the things in this room that I would need to see as I came into it?
Corners.
There we go.
Any sort of dead space, if there's like a fridge in it, or if you have like a bar, if this was like a kitchen, you had a bar, sure you could see the corners, but you can't see what's hiding behind the bar.
There we go, right?
Yeah.
So one thing we got to think about too is seeing in depth, which a lot of people don't think about. So corners is great. So if you come in here and you're like, okay, this is my house, right? And you come in, how long am I going to hit this corner for?
Just a snapshot.
Enough for you to see.
Enough for me to see. Nothing. Just work my way around, but once I'm done, I'm turning it off. Now you can also say like, once I enter the room, I'm going to keep it on, do everything I need to do, collapse back down, and then I'm going to go off, right?
Yep.
Absolutely. But if you're a homeowner, you know what I mean, and it's night out, you might not be, you know, just going through a house, you know, just like you guys did in your video, amazingly free flow CQB and the shit out of it. You know what I mean? Like you might be like a little bit more like, oh dude, what the shit? Okay, all right, cool, let me see this. And you might be using some of that distance and angles to your advantage, right? And seeing farther in the room and being off of something. So it might not always go exactly like, you know, we see in a movie, right? Like probably the best movie for CQB is probably The Expendables. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Yeah. So they're like something like that. It might not be like a movie or, you know, seeing some high level, you know, team going through and doing it, because that's not the same environment. It's not the same operating environment. It's not the same scenario. It's not the same anything. So it might be a little bit different. But yes, generally speaking, if you were going to come in, I could hit that and keep it on all the way around and down. But if I'm not doing it quite like that, I'm going to flash what I need to see. I'm going to turn it off, move where I know I can move, see the next thing, see my dead spaces, and do all that. So one thing I think people need to think about is how often you guys do stuff like this and you think, hey man, when I see this room, what is the thing you think about in this room?
The dead spaces. I'm concerned about the hallways and the darker areas. Mm-hmm. If I take 5 or 6 steps, the room changes quite a bit.
There we go, right? So when we're actually searching, right, or clearing, or whatever you want to call it, we look for, also in addition to dead spaces, we look for people and portals. So I'm not just looking for people, I'm looking for portals also. That could be that open door right there leading into a hallway. That could be this one going into the kitchen. That could be that deep one back there. So a lot of times what people do is they only see to the first limit, right, that wall. And then when they hit that door, they don't look in depth past it. So that's probably something you really need to do. And that light is really going to help you out, because when that light hits the wall and then all of a sudden drops back and comes back, your eyes are going to avert that way too. So it kind of helps us that way.
It's kind of like driving a car in the dark for the first time. It's when you kick those headlights on and it's pitch black and it's raining, you don't just want to be looking at where your tires are currently 5-10 yards in front of you. You want to be paying attention to the cars ahead of you that may be hitting their brake lights, a deer on the side of the road that's 50 yards up and it may be jumping out in front of you, but you need to see in depth, not just the immediate issue.
Yep, I would agree with that. Look into the turns, just like we say. Look around the corners, look around the curves. Yep. Same thing, man. We said we're going to do the how now. So basically we're going to do, Josh, you up first?
I am.
Cool, so Josh is going to come in first. He's just going to kind of break down this room, walk through it and search it and use his light however he would, and just kind of show us what he would do, then we'll critique it and talk about it. And Drew will do the same thing. So just so you know, with our weapons, we all got in, locked the slides of the rear. There's no ammo in there. Slides forward, hammers down, guns cannot go off. We made sure that they're all safe and we're good to go. So Josh's gonna do that anytime you want, man. So we'll just stand back here while he's doing that. On you.
I have light behind me, so I'm gonna activate my light as I'm biting off as much as I can, only moving as fast as I can process. Corner fed room. I'm gonna check. I know that there's a closet and an open door behind me. So before I bite that off, I'm gonna visualize what I can. That closet is clear. That can come off because I'm not backlit anymore. I can see depth into the bathroom and call it.
Fair enough. Yeah. Let's have Drew do it too, and then we'll talk about it together. Cool. You go in and check the bathroom, right? Yeah. Cool, guys. So a couple things. You tended, well, I can remember, you had to light on a little bit more, and he tended to turn it on and off a little bit more, right? So you were more constant, he was more strobing. So for this, and again, we're in a house, it's daytime outside, right? So, but for the most part, I'm going to use that strobe out there. And something cool that I heard, it was actually some cops in Phoenix area, right? So he had said, when we were doing a CQB class, he was like, you have the rest of your life to clear that room. I was like, oh, dude, that's pretty good, right? Now, the other side of it is like speed. We want to go fast when we're doing stuff. But you got to look at, you got to weigh speed and accuracy and all this other stuff and so on and so forth. And sometimes speed is security. But I would probably say for people that if you're not, practicing these kind of things on a regular basis, as in like several hours out of your day, a few times a week, because it happens to be a job, you might need to process that info, right? A little bit more. You know what I mean? You might need to take it a little bit more. So my first thing would be, and I hate using the term slow down, but I would ask you guys, moving like that, do you think if you saw something went, huh, you know what I mean? Like, do you think there's that opportunity you might have missed something at the speed you guys were moving?
Certainly.
Okay, right? Another thing, this doesn't have any furniture in it. So what happens when we add furniture? A lot more stuff. So one, I would say, hey man, tone it back a little bit and always go at a speed where you can think and feel your way through it. So my general thought on this is that if I'm out, here, and again, we know we got a lot of light, but generally for this, I'm gonna hit this, right? Coming down. Good, then I'm gonna come through and do whatever I need to do. Now, you're by yourself, and there's gonna be a lot of people out there that say, well, here's how I would do it. Like, first off, you're by yourself, dude. We're just clearing your house by yourself and checking out and searching stuff, right? There's no such thing as a perfect CQB run, right? Those are only in the movies. So you're always gonna have some level of exposure, right? But we're gonna minimize as best we can. So with this here, probably getting over here is a pretty good idea, right? Especially if that's a closed closet and then you open it, it's a deep closet, it's a giant walk-in. So we need to get to a place where we can check here, check here. If I'm going back and forth on these, I'm not gonna have my light on the whole time. Reason being, that swinging back and forth, someone's obviously gonna tell, because if I go like this and turn it off, they don't know where the light's at now. But if I do this, they know exactly where my attention is focused. So maybe this would be a good chance, here, to check out and strobe some stuff, right? So that initial look in the room, as you guys come in, yeah, absolutely collapse that down. Then from there, once I need to start seeing stuff, snapshot it, and then work your little angles like that. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So that would kind of be the biggest thing, I think the biggest takeaway from that. Other than that, remember, you got time, right? Unless, if it's, that shit hit the fan kind of thing, right? If you have a driving force and your family member or somebody's life is in danger, imminent danger of life, limb, or eyesight, and you have a driving force where you know exactly where that's coming from, then take your time. If you have that, you need to get there to stop that potential harm. Make sense? Yeah. So that's a different story. And when that happens, we accept a lot more risk. But if we don't have those things and we're just searching and just making sure my home feels right, and I'm like, you know what, something doesn't feel right. Let me check everything and be sure. Then let's take our time and do it right? One bad decision, one little missed thing could be, well, just like that cop said, you have the rest of your life to clear that room, which I think is very applicable in a lot lot of situations.
So in terms of how you would train this or practice this at home, like what we just did right there, there was no stimulus, there was no driving force.
Yeah.
We didn't even know if there was internally we know there's no targets in here for us to look for or anything like that. But how we would navigate that would be radically different if we, heard a scream or if we heard a window crack or a window break. Yeah. If you knew that there was something going on, how you would navigate all of that would be radically different.
Yeah, if there was, are you talking about that driving force?
Yeah. So like,
If I have a driving force and it's coming from this room and my kids, how many times have your kids ever screamed and you're just like dad mode, right? And you take off, right? I had the other day, like I remember my daughter screamed, we're outside. It was like a couple months ago. And it was, she screamed, I about didn't even open the storm door, the glass thing. I pretty much almost went right through it. You know what I mean?
I can imagine you like
just like head just,
Kool-Aid man.
Pretty much. Yeah. Kool-Aid man. So like I went for the door and I just kind of missed it and was like, and just busted it. But that's your going, right? If you don't have those type of things, let's take it slower. But yeah, if you do, you are going right there. You're blowing off a lot of stuff because think of it like medical, right? What's the first thing in a March algorithm?
Massive hemorrhaging.
Treat the immediate threat, that massive hemorrhage first. You find that immediate threat and you treat it. And in some ways, it's kind of comparable. If you have an immediate threat, like I'm just gonna go. Like, screw all this, I'm going in, I accept the risk, but I have to protect that person, right? So, or at least get in there and figure out what the hell's going on. And hopefully it's, oh, kiddo, don't scream like that. You just scared the shit out of daddy. I thought I was gonna get a conus kill. You know what I mean? Like, hey, bro.
So if you're just searching, if you're just suspicious, slow it down. Don't expose yourself more than you have to. If there's some sort of stimulus and you've got that driving force, you're pushing hard.
So when we're going really, really, say we have that driving force and we're pushing hard, are we gonna pick up on all the, I don't know what to call them, like environmental cues?
Yeah, you're not checking under the curtains to see if there's shoes sticking out under the
You're not
curtain.
looking for light changes. Right. You're not listening nearly as much to like the little subtle things, like maybe like a door starts creaking or you heard a footstep or heard some guy like clear his throat or something, like whatever. But if I'm going like balls out like that, I'm not gonna think about those things because I don't give a shit. I'm getting there. But when we stop and we take our time, maybe I'll recognize some stuff a little bit more and maybe I'll notice like my couch wasn't that far out from the wall. That's changed. Maybe I notice like, is that a shadow right there? Hold on. There shouldn't be a shadow there because it looks like 2 feet under a doorway. You know what I mean? Or something weird. You just never know. But if we give ourselves the time to do that, that can make a big difference, right? And that could be the difference, legally too, which is, I'm not the expert on that. I'm not a cop, or a judge or a DA or the Second Amendment Foundation who probably knows a lot more than me on that. But I would imagine the more information you have to back up those decisions you made, and the more you can pull and say, I saw this, I recognize this. Well, legally, that's really important. And then also it allows you to make a good decision. Because at the end of the day, you got to be there for your family, right? So
this makes me want to go back home and make sure that the lights that we leave on at night, like the lamps, are in the strategic places to show me if there is light movement in the main room outside of my bedroom, or a light at the end of a hallway so that anything that passes past it, I can pick up a shadow, things like that. Just little intricacies and nuances to your house that...
And some of those things are even more applicable for the average individual before you ever decide, I'm gonna go take a CQB class, or I'm gonna go dry fire my own house. If you don't have an understanding of how to secure your home, which by the way, he did a video on how to secure your home, which is very informational. Go check that out. We'll make sure we link it here in the video. If you don't have an understanding of the layout of your home, and man, if it's the middle of the night and I kick on a light, do I already know no one can hide behind that corner? There's not enough depth there, so I don't need to put my back to something else. Pretty good first step. We spend a lot of times in our homes before you get into what are the fundamentals of CQB.
Yeah, and yes, I agree with that. And so that's something that people, if you lived in your same home for 20 years, would you know that stuff?
You should.
Yeah, if you live there for 20 years, you just notice stuff without even having to think about it. You learn stuff over time. Well, maybe not take 20 years to figure all that out. Then just go think about it for a weekend, or just consciously have that in your thoughts. And then you'll probably realize things a lot sooner. It's just good things to think about. Yeah. So.
Or even if you live in like an apartment complex, it's not just inside your house.
Yeah.
Like anytime you typically take the same route up the stairs or whatever, or past a bush, if you just know, this makes me wish I would have done things so much differently back when I lived in apartments and complexes. Like if there's shadows that are always there or corners that you can never see into, it was just a handheld light walking past it. Boop, nothing. Boop, nothing. Go on up to your room.
Exactly. And how much better would someone feel, just coming home at night? I mean, so 99% of people out there are never going to do anything to you. But it's that 1% that would, right? So that's what we got to worry about. If you have 100 interactions, one of them might go bad. You know what I mean? So we don't worry about the other 99, we're worried about the one. But just having that light, just a quick, how many times you've been somewhere where you're like, oh, I just feel, this doesn't feel good to me. You know what I mean? Not that it's a bad neighborhood, nothing like that. You know, not that people around you are bad. It's just this, I feel vulnerable. So, well, cool. Well, that's kind of what I would think with this. Pretty much the same stuff, but go at a pace where you think that you're going to pick up on all those things. And if you guys, especially looking at this, are, you know, practicing this, you're going really fast, ask yourself that question. Would I notice all those little things? Would I have noticed maybe like a foot sticking out here, you know, or like a head or something, you know, somebody's hiding? Maybe I would just want to make sure I'm going at a pace where I will notice those things. I'm all about speed. Like we do that stuff, we go fast, man. But we also did it a lot. You know what I mean? And just built that up. We knew what to look for.
Your processing speed can match your physical speed.
And there was also 3 other guys with me. You know what I mean? At least. So sometimes 1 or 2, but you know, we had a bunch of people. That made sense, kind of why you guys both kind of had your way of doing it. So talk me through yours first, Drew.
Okay, so as soon as I came out, I kind of kept the white light on, but also like down here, I didn't have it down on the floor where it was just like telegraphing how close I was getting to the corner. The reason why I checked this first was because it's kind of open. These 2 were still closed. I didn't see light moving underneath the doors, so I was like, that's the scariest area, so I'm gonna check it. And then I backtracked to this one and I turned my light off in between so I wasn't just like, I'm aware of what this space is. It's dark. I can move within that darkness without having my light on because I know where everything's at. And then pop this door, pretended like it was somewhat dark in there. There was like a lamp or something on, and cleared this room, came back out, checked this one, which don't know if I should have went to this side. Because, I mean, I know that door is closed. Yeah. So I figured it's probably good. Check this one and then move on to what I've already cleared.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And Josh, what about you? You did things a little bit differently.
Right, Drew, that makes sense. I just took it door by door and addressed one at a time. I didn't want to be in a doorway, so as I was throwing a door open, I'm sure you did the same thing, trying to not be in the threshold as the door was opening, give it just a second to breathe, and then move in. Obviously not needed to actually turn any lights on in there, but coming out, I can't remember if I did this exactly, but I should have been paying attention to, am I backlit and is there darkness that I am bringing myself to, which as I exited that, I know that I was turning the light on, both to see in depth here as well as to stop myself from being backlit, because I did change that environment and now I'm standing in the light. So I just did it a little bit differently and hit this first door and then moved across to the bathroom.
We'll say if that was my house and I was just suspicious, there was no driving force, I probably would have went a lot slower and just stopped and listened in the darkness. Because people make noises.
Yeah.
Things make noises.
I've done that too. Yeah. You know, the wife is in bed is like, I think I hear something.
Literally pause for like 30 seconds sometimes and then.
So we always had sills. You guys ever heard that?
Yeah.
Stop, look, listen, smell. Right? So like, you get on patrol, you get dropped, whatever, and you stop. You do sills for like 5 minutes, right? And then you continue your patrolling or whatever. I do it too, like I'll hear my daughter, I'll sneak up on her and I'll stop. because I love, me and my daughter, we play around a lot. And like, I'll just stop. And then what does she do? Okay, no one's there. So then she'll move and make a noise, but like, got you, right? So little stuff. But yeah, you can always just let the situation develop a little bit, right? So a couple things you guys did differently was you had constant on coming down the hallway. Made sense. We're in a linear thing right here, right? Or like a tube, you know what I mean? It's a hallway. So coming on down here, and then you decided I'm gonna clear this. Well, yeah, it made sense. You know, if you got a reason to do it, absolutely. So kind of familiar with it. Let me just check that real quick so I can, you know, feel warm and cozy about it, warm and fuzzy, and then we'll go in and do this other stuff. Fair enough. But I will say for this, probably a good idea to have that constant on until you can get to here and confirm, hey, there's nothing down there. It helps you out because if you see on the camera, like, what is that person gonna see? They're like, you know, it's not a whole lot, but at least you're holding that hallway a little bit with as much as a light can, you know what I mean? And yeah, you're good. So I probably would have said that's a pretty good option in this setup.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
So in the first CQB video that we did, one of the big things that you told us was you catch a lot of guys clearing like this. Granted, it was during the daytime, and how that's kind of setting you up for failure, to keep it down just in case, you know, to minimize mistakes. How do you navigate that in the darkness whenever you're trying to balance seeing straight in front of you and keeping a light on it? Let's say you were using a weapon light, which this is another pro of using a handheld, right, instead of your weapon light to search. But how do you, like, are you leaving your light on and bringing it down and then bringing it up? Like, what's the balance there?
Yeah, so a lot of people will do that. They'll, you know, as they get to a little part, they search down and up, and they go to the next part, up and down, right? I don't tend to do that. I like to clear with my eyes, not the gun. But what's the most important thing we need to see on somebody when you're clearing?
Hands.
Right. Hands and waistband.
Yep.
Right? Because that's where people carry stuff. Okay. So general rule of thumb is I probably want to be able to see where the floor meets the wall. And these lights have a good amount of spill. So even right here, if I shine that where the floor meets the wall, I'm illuminating up above the doorknob. You know what I mean? Like 2/3, 3/4 of the way at the door. I'm good. Even with the beam at the very bottom, I'm still getting decent stuff there. So if I see something, then I bring it up and I can identify it, right? And do what I need to do. But a lot of people get wrapped up like, I see at this level, not when we're doing this stuff. I don't see here, I see here, right? That T-box looking area is what we're looking for. So with that light being down, it really is not going to be that big of a deal, right? But then what else are we going to see? Maybe somebody kneeling, right? So not everybody's standing straight up, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like hiding, you're going to notice more stuff kneeling. But at least we'll pick that up, and then from there, you can raise up and finish identifying whatever it may be.
Cool.
Does that answer your question? Okay, cool. You brought a great point coming out of these rooms, right? So now that the rooms, the lights are on, what you say that again, when you came out of the rooms, now you're backlit from the room, so you probably want to.
Yeah, so we're making do with what we have, but it's light outside. And the case could also be there's a car outside with headlights on, there's street lights.
Yeah.
Your neighbors have their floodlights on. But yeah, if I'm exiting that room and I am concerned about a threat, not just turning that light on for you to see, but because I'm backlit as well. Same principle as if you're coming down the hallway and you're backlit behind you, you're, as mentioned, trying to stop someone from just poking their head out. You're suppressing them with your light.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably a good idea when you come out of there, once you're looking, see what you need to see, but once I cross that threshold, I'm probably going to keep it on for a second, right? If my light's moving, you know, you can probably keep it on, but if I'm stopped, I probably want to turn it off, you know, for certain reasons. There's, I'm going to say never and never say always, right? It's kind of the same concept. So I hate giving too many absolutes, but it's just generally speaking, that would have been a good point, like you're talking about, to kind of keep it on, because you are backlit. But other than that, guys, I mean, we can argue like which one should we have done first and come here and do that, but like, hey man, like it's, you were right in the way you did it, and you were right in the way you did it. And the fact of the matter is, this isn't real. We're in a house practicing, you know what I mean, and talking about it. So if this had happened, then Drew would have been right. But if this situation was set up slightly different, then Josh would have been right. You know what I mean? So as long as you have a reason for doing what you're doing, that's fine, right? If you can justify what you're doing, honestly, not, you know, like some people do, like honestly justify why you're doing something, then it's probably okay. As long as it doesn't violate any principles. So anyway, yeah, man, that's pretty much it. To me, it's fairly simple, and it's just getting used to that. So know those little principles we talked about, you know, what we're doing, why we're doing it, when we're doing it, and then how, and then put yourself in those different kind of situations or setups throughout your home or whatever it may be, and just work through that, right? Be like, does this apply here? Yeah, it does. Does that make sense? Great.
Yep.
So fair enough, guys. Anything else?
No, I think you hit on the fundamentals and the principles and the different ways that you can approach things and when and why. I guess all that's left is probably practicing this stuff at home and knowing how to read the light in your home, knowing how to set up, you know, lamps and lights, and then your video that you did several months back on knowing your home and setting it up to be, you know, defendable. So
fair enough. Did you guys read any of the comments on that?
no.
Oh, dude.
I'm gonna have to go look.
So I have a question for you guys. So a lot of people had wrote, well, this is all dumb. You know, what was on the video that with you guys actually talking about, you know, pawing off the door, cleaning the house, whatever. They kept saying putting mirrors inside. What did you guys think of that?
I mean, I understand, it makes sense, but mirrors are also both ways.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, like, yeah, I get it. It's cool try it.
Yeah. I don't want to live in a fun house, first of all, with mirrors all over and around every door, because people will be like, what kind of weird, creepy shit are you into? Right? You know, but like, my first thought was, oh, then they can see me and then they can prepare for me. It's like, yeah, but you can see them. I'm like, shut up. Like, I don't know. Like, man, it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. Yeah. But anyway, okay, cool. I was just making sure there wasn't something I was missing from that last bit.
The comment we got the most on your video, I know this may make this video a little bit longer, is how do you go down the stairs?
Oh, yeah.
Which is like, to me, it's like you walk down them just like you would a hall.
Yeah, it's tough to see as much as you can and get downstairs. You know, like.
Well, are you doing a scamper to get down as quickly as possible, or are you like peeking under?
I'm gonna peek under, you know,
okay,
look down, peek under, but you know, at that point you kind of got to just get down there and see as much as you can, but just keep fluid movement. So, but yeah, that's about it.
I've been going down on my tummy.
Oh, the sled technique. Yeah. Very popular in the Middle East. Yep.
See, I prefer you put your butt up on the railing and then you throw a leg over and you slide down, and then the hilt of it will catch you in the crotch and it stops you in the perfect spot, and you can pivot around that and shoot 360.
I hope someone films that and tags you guys in it. I hope they do.
Well, I already know what our next intro is going to be for the next CQB video. So.
Well, as I'm sure you guys know, simply watching a YouTube video is not really going to get you better. So make sure you're getting out and trying this stuff. You can even grab a buddy, have him hide in your house somewhere, and clear your own home. It's a pretty fun thing that Drew and I and Nick do every once in a while, just to kind of set the cameras down and just go goof around. Search your own home and just start with some of the basics. Now, beyond that though, Drew Estell owns Baer Solutions, if you didn't know already, and he offers professional classes on this kind of stuff. So, Drew, do you have classes coming up? Do you have classes open? Are they LE, military only? What is it that you do with Baer Solutions?
Yeah, so we just put up the 2024 calendar, so that's on the website. So we're going to be actually going to Texas this year. Texas, Utah, Arizona, Nevada, Pennsylvania. Got a class in Tennessee this year, down in Jackson. And I don't know, there's some others too. So those are our open enrollment classes, and we do have some for law enforcement. We're doing some CQB courses. Got some collaboration classes with Room Nation and also Brian Valise of Sly Tack, which is cool, up in New Hampshire and then also in Pennsylvania. Yeah, man, we got a lot of stuff, and then we make products. We got our Baer belt that we just filmed that video. We're releasing probably this week. You guys will see it. So by the time this comes out, it's already out. We got a battle belt, book, and then we have a Gonic that we co-own, and that's our cool concealed carry belts. But yeah, man, are we all wearing them?
Yeah.
Matchy, matchy.
Look at that.
Twinsies, all right.
That's why I like it, because I can actually clip on underneath the belt. Like, that's what I like.
Yeah, man. So look at that. Say they have them, you should too. All right. But yeah, man, just support us any way you can, and then you can head to the YouTube. We got YouTube also, and you guys can subscribe on that. But yeah, that's about it, dude. So check out the website.
Thanks again, man.
Absolutely. It's always a good time, man. I appreciate it. It's good seeing you guys again.
Too.
Appreciate everything you guys do.
Thank you.
So
thanks for taking it easy on us.
Say something about button hooking.
Yeah.
Use the word linear.
Yeah. I should have button hooked linearly.
You took both of them.
I know.
I'm trying to make it.
I was like, hold on. Okay, go ahead.
My footwork doesn't hold a candle to my handwork.
That's great.
I think that one, that
Maybe
wins.
too much?
That one, no, it's beautiful. When you were on me and I was on you, we shouldn't have been on each other, but rather opposed on ourselves.
When we were slicing the pie, I don't find any of these to be cylindrical.
What?
When we were slicing the pie and I bit off a third, how much could you chew?
I could only chew about a quarter when you bit
Oh,
off.
sorry, hold on.
It's so good. No, keep going. That is perfect. I was thinking the same thing. I was like, if you bite off what you can chew,
Yeah,
go
yeah.
biting and chewing.
Right. When we were slicing the pie, I only took a third, which left you 6/8 for you to chew.
Yeah, while you were slicing a third, I was biting a quarter, and between the two of us, I think we had about 66% of the pizza before the last 33% exposed itself to us.
And dude, this is a deep dish. It's a rough one.
It is. It's definitely not New York style.